Hello fellow woodworkers and welcome to this week's edition of the Garage Workshop. And this week we're going to be revisiting my router table cart and changing this gap into a storage drawer for all of my drills. Roll the intro. So for this build, I wanted to get it absolutely right. So I actually did do a sort of design and plan. I didn't stick to it 100%. It is the Garage Workshop after all. But I did really stick to the dimensions. The way that I move it in and out, I did change for slides later in the video, which you'll see from the original thing I was going to do, which was in DK's video. The next thing to do was to get a piece of plywood. I was really lucky. I had a piece of plywood that was big enough to do everything I wanted it to do. And then I took it over to the miter saw, the Evolution miter saw, which has got such a great depth of cut that I can cut really wide pieces on it, and even though it doesn't reach, just setting up a simple stop block lets me do it. I then took the pieces that I'd cut over to the table saw and trimmed them down to the right side. So the bits you can see there are the sort of outside surround of the unit you'll see in a minute. And all of the pieces of wood I cut in the first instance. I got them all exactly the way I wanted them because I sort of wanted to do a couple of dry constructions, dry fits, just to make sure that everything went as it should do. And the other thing, you can see me doing it there, I really checked all the measurements super carefully. The next thing I did was just using some double-sided sticky tape. I just hooked the units together to make sure that A, they looked okay, and B, everything fitted properly. Now, a couple of these pieces of wood were slightly bowed, and you'll see later in the video I had to be really careful to use clamps when I was putting the unit together properly, just to get everything in line, because obviously it was really important that everything was as straight as it could possibly be for this build, because this sort of unit I'm making is going inside the router table, so it had to be absolutely spot on. So I used these little Aldi clamps, which I've mentioned before. I've actually seen them in Aldi for a long time, but they're so super useful just for holding things together, and they were really cheap. They're only, I think, they were £2 for 4 or something ridiculous. But when I'd hooked it all together, I was really pleased that not only did it all fit, which it did, but all of the measurements were very precise. I then offered it up to the hole. Took a little bit of fiddling, as you can see, but it did slide in eventually after a little bit of persuasion. And this was just more about me not being able to get it in level. As you can see, there is, you know, a good amount of room in there for it, despite my looking at it in many strange ways. I then moved on to the sort of inner unit and cutting the wood for the inner unit, which was the next stage. Again, I just used the miter saw. It's got a really good depth of cut, but the other thing about the miter saw is it's super accurate, so the quality of the cuts that I get on it are always really good. I've never had any complaints, and I know the blade is fairly new and the saw is fairly new, but it is actually the blade that came off my other miter saw, so it has been used before. So when I'd knocked all the pieces of wood up and cut them all again from that original same piece of plywood, I just repeated the procedure that I'd made for the outer box that you just saw me offer up. Exactly the same thing, ran the strips through the table saw to get them the right size. And this is a sort of, I don't know the best word to use for this, it's a sort of spacer, and it's to go on the top and the bottom should I need it, and you'll see me use it later on in the video. But I wanted to just make all the cuts, get everything 100%, so that when I put it all together it fitted. So the next stage was to put the hinges on, which you can see that I just bought these just cheap hinges that I got from Screwfix, and they were 350 mil hinges. So they gave me the extension, the depth extension that was just deep enough for what I needed. It was quite tight, but I got what I needed. Then I just drilled just a little hole to fit them in, and because of the nature of how this is going to work, I did put 3 or 4 screws in each of these because I wanted them absolutely secure, because technically the top and the bottom runners that you can see there, they are going to be taking all of the weight for the drawer. And although the drills aren't massively heavy, it is another construction of 18mm plywood inside this box. And as you'll know, if you work with 18mm plywood, it is quite substantial in terms of weight. So when that slide was okay, I just transferred the measurements onto the other piece of wood, which is what you can see me doing there. I literally just lined them up and drew a line across so they're in exactly the right place. And then I hooked that drawer slide onto the other piece. So I have both pieces done now. And now I just literally went through and drilled the holes. I deliberately didn't glue this because at some point this unit will come apart. It is the garage workshop after all. So I just pre-drilled all of the holes, and then I just used this to sort of make a hole for the screw to sink into. I did the same on both sides, and when that was done, I was then able to connect it all together. I really took my time doing this. Obviously the video you're looking at is quite sped up, but I really took my time doing this because this is the strength of the unit, and it has to be able to take the pressure of being trapped inside the router cabinet and also the pressure of having the unit inside it, which is the one that's actually going to slide out with the drills. But when that was all hooked together, I was very pleased. I could have done this a couple of ways, and I did think about how was the best way of doing this, but I just sort of went for glory really, and I just put the whole box together. There I am just drilling the other side. I put the whole box together and thought I'm going to work on the internal parts pretty quickly from putting the box together. So I put the whole thing together, connected it, pre-drilled it, screwed it, and then when that was all done and the unit was finished, I offered it up. Now, this point, it was a tighter fit, or it felt a much tighter fit than it was originally. I had to do a little bit of well-known constructive persuasion, but the unit fitted in and it was quite tight. And what I was aiming for was getting it level with that sort of central strut that you can see. So I'm literally just lightly tapping it with my Thor hammer to get it right. But I was relieved that it worked properly. The next thing to do was to hook together the inside bit. This is where the drills are actually going to sit. And I literally just repeated exactly the same. But obviously this has got an open side, if you see what I mean. So it's only got sort of 3 parts to it, not 4. There is going to be a drawer front that goes on there eventually, but I'll tell you a little bit about that at the end of the video. So this back sort of stringer strut that you can see there, I just left a little bit of a gap because obviously this bit's mainly going to be in the router table unit. You're not really going to see it. And A, I just wanted to save on a little bit of wood, and B, I just didn't need all of that connection. I didn't need it to be as wide as that. It's there to maintain the integrity of that sort of internal box. So all pretty straightforward. And when it was constructed, I then offered it up, and I have to say I was pretty nervous at this point, but I shouldn't have been because it fitted an absolute treat. It was perfect. So I'm going to take that as an absolute win for my measuring because I didn't have to do any finagling or anything. I just did it straight off first time, and I was so impressed with how it worked. Next thing to do was I just marked the drawer slides on the top and the bottom. I actually took it out. I put a little mark and then I took it out to do the bottom. Then I just drilled and put the screws in, for the sort of last sliding bit of the drawer slide. And then I offered it up finally, and it went in. Now, I did put some screws in, which you'll see in a minute, to put all the individual drill bits in, but unfortunately my GoPro cut off and I didn't realise that bit of footage is missing. So when you see it in a minute, it is completed, but literally I just attached some bits. So fellow woodworkers, my project is finished, but not 100% finished. As you can see, the drawer works really well, and I've got access to all of my drills. At the moment, they are just held in with screws, and the reason why they're like that is I'm going to design some pieces that I can 3D print to attach there. I've just got a 3D printer, which is going to be an upcoming video, and I want to sort of sculpt some proper pieces of plastic hangers for these to hang off, but the screws are doing a really good job, and obviously the unit goes back in and out exactly as I want it to. Now I put this temporary piece of wood here, so although I said it's finished, there are a couple of little things that I need to do. The reason why I'm not properly attaching this yet is I've got an upcoming project about the whole front of this, and that's going to be part of it. So this drawer will have a proper front, and it will all link in with that, and again that's a future video, but I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. It wasn't a really easy project to do, and actually getting this drawer right, as you can see there's a little bit of planing at the bottom, but getting the drawer right was actually really difficult, a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. So the fact that it's working really well, I'm really pleased with. So if this is your first time on the Garage Workshop, please can I ask you to subscribe, like, comment, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. And if you are a regular viewer, thank you so much again for watching. Also, don't forget to like and comment. Just one thing, if you are a new user, a large percentage of people that watch my videos don't subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, just click that subscribe button and help the channel out. I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll catch you on next week's edition of the Garage Workshop. Take care, fellow woodworkers.